And then now we get into the area that I call top keck. Because spoiler, my next two teams was KCorp and Heretics as my third and second team, right? You had, obviously, Heretics was way low. You had them at, I think, 6th, but you had KCorp yourself at 2nd. So we were both super high on KCorp. So let's talk about it, right? Look, I'll just start and say, I'll open the table by saying this. I'd say fair play if people told me, you were wrong, but it's like, I pick one player. Say it was like that I thought Sakan would be good and he was kind of a bit shit and did do that. No, like, basically every player except Bo somewhat disappointed me, and it's more an upsets, like I said, more of his, like if you knew this was the lineup, why did you walk into it? That's what I'd say to upset. But then even then, by the way, I've heard they were good in scrims. So like I've almost never seen a team completely collapse like this, mate. Well, almost everyone ends up looking worse. I mean, the joke is, to a casual, even Bo looked worse, but because of the nature that he's playing aggressive jungler. So his problem was he was going in and then people left him and they were like, why did he enter? It's like, if they actually followed up, that was a good engage, like, what do you think of this team? Because I feel like this is the one where, unfortunately, almost everything we're going to say is going to seem negative.
I'd say the first thing I'd say is, for Sakan, there is a point where the retirement door is very close to you when you're a player, and if it's the case that it's your time, you should at least leave on a good showing. So I don't know, because Sakan has a very complex career where he didn't play on a fair. I don't think that Vitality did him good in terms of putting him.
If people don't remember, the Vitality he played in was the one where they had, like, first of all, they were supposed to have the Milicia guy, and then they had, like, changed out the jungler. It was never the same lineup, like, and the bot lane was a nightmare. It was a terrible team, that one.
It was a terrible team. And then I think he thought, like, LEC was not available for him anymore. Then moved to Carmine. Had a phenomenal year in 2020. I think at this time he should have looked for opportunities in the LEC and left KC because. And I think one of the things that actually hindered him a lot from at least, I would say, a coach that worked specifically on mid lane for multiple years now. I think that when you're a mid laner, there is a lot of added external pressure when you play on LEC, because jungle support are way more keen on pressuring mid in LEC, and even more at Worlds. And so staying in the LFL has hindered his development, because I think that he was at his prime in 2020 and he would have had included a lot of the pacing, integrated a lot of the pacing of the games in LEC earlier in his career. But now that he spent 2 more years kind of slumping in a league where he's way better, now doing the, when you didn't gym for 2 years, going back to the gym feels much harder.
Sure.
And I think that really repeating back, this level of training is very hard for a player that even stated openly that his motivation was dropping because he was still playing in ERL last year. The problem is you can't just flip a switch and come back. And so now you see that he's not at his prime, he's doubting himself, and he's probably even more pressured because he knows that he's kind of old and the retirement might happen eventually if he doesn't play from well. The only advice I have for these players is you might at least, leave on a good performance. So give it your all, because Sakan has been the most underperforming player in this team by far.
Yes.
In comparison, I do not like. You have to be homogeneous with your judgment. There is no world where these Mad Lions team, Koi team players are amazing in the LEC, and they were all outclassed by the KCorp last year.
Yep.
That doesn't work. Like, you don't suddenly become terrible at the game and the other guys are like just a runner-up against G2 at the same split. So it means that Sakan is actually heavily underperforming individually. That's a critical problem that I think hasn't been addressed because he's a fan favorite, especially in France. But the player that has been the most underwhelming for me by far has been Sakan. And I think it's a combination of slumping, going back at it, the stress and the pressure of under-delivering, and the threat of retirement, right? Getting benched before showing yourself, that kind of like hinder him. And on his side, you have Bo, this young prodigy that just wants to play as aggro as he can, the Mad Lion side. And if you take the Mad Lion playstyle and you just replace the Mad Lion player by KC players, this team is actually better than Mad Lions. I would say, I'm pretty certain they would be better. But the problem is, to reach that, you need a level of trust in yourself that they don't have, because the trajectories of every single player in this KCorp is very weird, man. You look at Cabochard, you look at Sakan, you look at Bo, you look at Upset, you look at Targamas. All these guys had high highs and very low lows in their careers, meaning that they are not players that fit in any system. And I think that I really thought that the glue in this whole system was Yamato. And when I saw their performance and I saw the draft weren't bad, but I think they didn't reflect the very nature of what KCorp was able to do in my book. And then they fired him, and I was like, they don't know what they're doing. And that's the problem I have. This is the first time. There is 2 times where Carmine failed to resist the song of the sirens. You say sirens?
Yeah.
Or do you say mermaids?
Sirens.
Mermaid song. You say sirens? Yeah, okay. Because, remember last year when they did the skins and Seiken and they got Kaori from Evil Geniuses? Yes. It always looks good on the paper. That's the songs of sirens. You need to resist that urge to pick the player that you think is going to be the best and go with something is going to work for sure, because your life is on the line. And here, I think they went for a plethora of very good players, but that had high highs and low lows. And the problem is, in this system, apparently Yamato wasn't the glue, so they're all showing out their lows. So there is a lot to change for this KCorp, but there is still, unlike Rogue, there is a lot of raw material to develop on. It's just finding a system to align Bow and Upset, which both require the presence of the support next to them, is one of the trickiest thing to build in League of Legends as a coach. And the fact that they fired the head coach shows that it feels like nobody has an idea what's going on.
Yeah, what I would say is, I'll start on the second point, actually. This is where I actually hate when narratives, like you nailed it there. When you actually have like analytical lenses and principles, you have to apply them equally to everyone. Like you can't say, essentially, like I'm going to use logic type A to judge KCorp, but then when I judge Mad Lions, I'll use logic type B, which might even be anti-A. That doesn't make sense. Like, you got to be fair, because here's where narratives get really messed up. So people are going to tell me, because Mad Lions was good, see, that's what happens when you take like an ERL core together and then you bring them up and then you give them confidence. Well, as Zabatine pointed out, KCorp had an ERL core. By the way, they played Mad Lions and fucking beat them in the EU Masters, which is, guys, you don't have to watch the fucking ERLs, but at least watch the EU Masters finals, please. Because there's the other thing. When people tell me about Saken, right, and go, see, he wasn't LEC quality, it's like you said, he might have had the odd year that wasn't as good, but like he always looked like a top player in the LFLs. And especially, this is the worst thing. Again, this is a rare case where normally it's really dodgy to label a player a choker because you don't really know. Like, was it like comm issues? Was there some, maybe they had a personal issue with the player or the coach didn't vibe with them? This is a player where I am almost certain I can tell you he had nerve issues. Because, bro, the Saken that played it in the RLs, it's not just that the other players weren't as good. He would do moves that he just never made in the LEC. He was, in the term you say in English is he was like gun shy. He couldn't pull the trigger. He would literally go in, and at a moment when even in random solo queue was here, presses R, he wouldn't press R. Like the joke almost was, because at the same time as the Iron Wolf story, the joke is like, if I didn't know he actually was just playing back, it looked almost like match fixing. Like it looked like, what the hell are you doing? Like you're just stood there not doing any spells. Like what this isn't what Azir does. Like, and so, by the way, if people don't know, Azir is his champion. That's like his fucking signature champion. So when he was having busted Azir games, I was like, oh my god, this is so bad. And then, by the way, even when he tried to like spice it up and do that Akali game, it was one of the worst Akali games I've seen in a long time. So like something happened, and I don't even blame that on Yamato or the other players on KCorp. Something just happened specifically to him alone. Something happened to him, mate. And the problem, like you're saying, is, mate, unfortunately, he isn't the rookie where we can go, hey, give him a few more splits. He's already had years ago a bit of a scuff try, and then he's put so many years into now getting the big chance that like it is kind of like it's KCorp or bust if you're Saken. No one else is going to pick you up for LEC. So like you actually better make it work this. I'm with you though. Even what you have to do, you've got the mindset nailed there, mate. Even if it actually goes shit next split and they really do fire you,
do something.
Try and go out on a high. Essentially, go out, fire every shot out with the gun before you go. Is the scenario? It's like the cops are surrounding you in this scenario. They're going to come in with the SWAT team. You may as well fucking take every shot and hope you make it. You may as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially because I know he has it. Like, it would be dumb for anyone who watched the ARLs the last years to say that Saken is not able to play in LEC. It's not the best. Like, I think that he's one of the most overrated players by its fan ever. Right? It's like XPK level of delusion.
Right.
On what the fans thought Saken was, but the real value of Saken is still high. It's not as high as what fans thought, but it is high. It's just, as I said, it is very hard because I think there is a lot of personal trajectories involved into a system that's very complex to make work. Like it's a very jungle ADC, how many teams has a good jungle and ADC at the same time? Like, look,
it's pretty
Peanut
rare.
was playing weak side in Genji. Honor is playing weak side for T1. Like teams that actually snowball through the jungle usually don't have a superstar ADC because it's so hard. You need the support to be at both places in the map at the same time. And so because of that, I mean, once again I feel like I'm gonna say it because I haven't phrased my opinion on that, but I think that kind of did Yamato a little dirty. I think that's part of the esports routines. I think probably they clearly realized he wasn't the right fit, and they were like, there is no real need to keep him on board, and it's probably even was bringing negative because the German law of labor, right? It's like you still pay someone, so it means that they might better pay him streaming at home than having on board. So there was something for sure that was clearly dysfunctional for them to move on with Rhea, who is not a random. Rhea was with Striker, and Striker, and he was there in every single iteration of Carmine Corp pretty much. I just hope for them that they did just a bit more that they can chew with this Bow upsets roster.
Here's the angle I want to ask you about Zabatine. Let me put this to you. Here's what's mad. Everyone's going to think we've lost our mind if they're casual fans, especially if they never watched the LFL, by what I'm about to propose to you. But the joke is, look, the only player, like the two players that are the most obvious ones to remove is obviously mid and support, right? It's very unlikely you're going to do both either, right? But my biggest problem goes like this. Even though people know, well, they'll say I'm biased for Born Upset, the thing that kills me is this. I actually think that not only are those two really good players, Born Upset, but even the way they play looks like it would be awesome if the others just did like a basic job. They don't even have to be good. Like, here's the saddest thing. If I'm going to have a carry jungler and a fucking stud ADC who wants to win team fights, having a guy who's in his A main's perfect. And if he doesn't want to be the start, you don't have to be, bro. Just fucking lane okay, get to the team fight, press R, fucking use the sand soldiers to zone people off, and then let Bo go in, follow up, let Upset fucking kite everyone. The problem they have is the other players almost neutralize the actual strength you have. Like, I feel like if you could put the right players on those guys, because I'm with you on what you said earlier before. Everyone keeps saying, right, here's the difference. I've admitted it before. I am a fucking homer for Perks. I'm just riding with him because fuck it, I want to see him play. I don't care if he's bad, right? The difference is I will absolutely die on the hill that Upset is still a really good player, mate, because I'm with you. I saw those games and I was just thinking, even from like a layman's perspective, bro, what if I pause any frame here? What the fuck am I doing if I'm the ADC there? Like you say, essentially, there's times where people are going like, he's not even going up and auto-attacking. It's like, bro, this isn't season 5. If he steps one foot forward, he is going to have like 2 people go some mad angle on him and he will be dead in an instant. And that, by the way, then you'll just say he died in an instant. So like, he's actually in that scenario we see in England between a rock and a hard place. Like, he's stuck. There's nothing he can do. And remember, of all the fucking roles, your ADC, it's not the one that just 1v9s from minute 1. It wouldn't have mattered if he was fucking ruler. He could not have, I don't think he could have won any of these games. He also didn't play awesome, but he wasn't even in the games, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, and he was playing mostly Lucian, which is a champion that has a low range. Like, you can't. This is such a wrong way of analyzing. I think we should be past. Like, I listen, I hear fans, right? I'm interacting with them. I have my channel and stuff, but I usually don't even respond. If the analysis is so narrow that you're like, oh, the ADC didn't pull damage before dying, and you'd rather see someone like pull 400 damage on a tank and then die instantly, and you call it like a good performance, then we have no point talking together, right? It's like we need to go past the point of like who does the damage and try to understand that positionally in terms of early game opening. Like, it was a chess game where like Carmine Corp didn't know their openings. They were not even able to open with a solid, like robust position from the first 15 minutes of the game, which shows that they were fine when the laners didn't shit the bed. That's literally this. That's just Seiken didn't play well. And I think everybody's kind of scared to say that just Seiken didn't play well. I don't have problem with that. I think he can just play better. And that's it. Like, if he plays better next split, if Seiken comes back and plays at least the level he was playing in the DRL, you're going to see Carmine Corp playing better. And you know what people would say? Oh, yeah, the coaching staff changed. Much better.
Of course. Yes. Yeah, that's true.
That's the worst. That's the worst. They're going to be like, yeah, I think there was definitely something that happened. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like Yamato just slapping the hands of Seiken whenever he touched the mouse on stage or something. I don't know. There is hopes fans of KC, if there are some that still listen to you, because I know a lot of them are angry against you.
They might hate
There is
watching,
a
to be
lot of
fair. Maybe
hope.
they hate watching. I hope I say something horrible. It could be.
I know there is a thing on the internet where you go intentionally listen to people you disagree with to drop a hate comment. I think there is a lot of hope for Karmin. It's just one of the hardest teams to make work. I think if they went for Niski or someone like Eka, they would have had a very easy time. They went with Seiken because I understand the legacy.
Yeah, sure.
But with the profile and the carry he had, there was a high chance this would happen. It's happening. Now figure out how to fix it. That's ball is on your side, KCorp.
And by the way, since you admitted you yourself are like the biggest Bo fan ever, here's the difference, right? Even though people did sadly rewrite his time in Vitality, like what they do with both Upset and Bo, you notice, is they pretend the spring split never happened. They just pretend it was winter only and they lost every game and they were both bad. Here's the difference, right? I will totally admit that by they got to the summer last year in Vitality, even Bo looked broken. Like, not only did he not play the carries anymore, even the way he played, you could tell it was just like, this team's just broken. Like, we're basically just waiting for the split to end. The difference is, even when this team lost 1 million games, dude, he kept playing like he was his actual style. He kept playing to his strength. And I tell you what, I'll give him mad props, because not only did everyone hear those voice comms where he was very vocal and he was trying to tell people, he was almost pleading with people, mate, to do the players. But also, he kept going for the players. Like, mate, I'll tell you right now, I don't fucking play jungle, but if I off-road jungle and I even play with a random solo queue game and people don't go in, I'm going to go, fuck these guys. I'm just going to go get some selfish gang and lose the game, but at least I'm not going to be the one. The worst feeling in the world, I've always thought in League, and the carries don't get this, is when you're either the fucking tank top laner or the jungler that's trying to get fed and go on the back line. And you go in and it's like you feel like everyone else took a step back instead of following in on you. And then you're just getting wrecked by everyone, looking like a fucking idiot. And then the fan who doesn't know goes, what a stupid idiot, thinking you did a Hillsong angle. Meanwhile, you know that if they followed up, we actually could have won that team fight. That is probably the worst feeling in the game. So I actually will say this, that's another positive for KCorp. Dude, Bo actually didn't look like he got broken this split. He looked like he kept trying. So if you could fix some of the other things, he could actually potentially do something in this league.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there is a Bo. I've seen him with Maokai re-engaging 4 times, and he seems just like, oh, should we? Oh no, yes. Oh no. Eventually we go, and you see Bo dying eventually because of the 3 or 4 seconds of his team just doing back and forth. Like, is he mad or is he a genius? Is he mad or is he a genius? Oh, he's a genius. Let's go. And I'm like, guys, you should listen to him. Yes. I'm promising to you, he is a bloody genius. Like, what he sees, very few people see it.
Yes.
So there is a very simple way to fix KCorp is make sure that mid lane doesn't lose hardcore in the first 15 minutes of the game. Stabilize. Don't try to play anything fancy. Play front to back. And let Bo, whenever he goes somewhere, you stop thinking and you click. And if you die, same thing. Mad Lions does that with Elio.
Yes.
The level of trust.
The joke is, I don't even think they always know if it's going to. They just do it. They just trust him, like you say. They just know. Tell your pro, let's play for him. Yeah, of course.
But you know, it is in League of Legends. It's so much better to be wrong together.
Yes.
BDS takes shit fights, but they do it together. G2 ain't a lot of time, but they do it together. The problem with KC is they're trying to play an optimal League of Legends in which everybody has their own opinion. Stop this. Just, guys, admit you're not the shot caller. When Bo goes, you click your button, and if you die, it's fine. GG next split. And then if it doesn't work at the end of the year, you just choose a different jungler.
Exactly.
But if you get Bo, for the love of God, play with him.
Yes. I totally agree, especially because, again, just like with certain other players we mentioned, there's no point having him if you're just going to tell him to play Sejuani and fucking just
Get
like...
Syncroft.
Yeah,
Keep
like,
Syncroft.
The joke is, why bother at that point in time? Like, the whole point is, this guy does have this talent, this real mechanical talent, and also has, like you say, he has a crazy vision for how to, like, dominate. By the way, I'll just straight up say, I've said it on other shows, but this is one of those teams I have gone and asked a whole bunch of people about what were they like in scrims during the split, before the split. Dude, there are players, big name LEC players, who tell me, oh, I'm actually shocked Carmi's that bad, because the Bo guy is a demon in scrims. They tell me, like, he has scrims where he just wins the whole thing in 10 minutes, and you're like, fuck, what was our jungler supposed to do? And it's like, he looks like a god. So unless it's some very, and here's the key thing as well, he has done it on stage. Like that, it's one thing if there's the story of like they're a scrim god, but they never do it on stage. He's doing it, they just don't play the same way they do in scrims, clearly. In scrims, I bet they don't give a fuck. There's no fear. Saka probably presses R, there's no pressure. I bet it did look great in scrims. I bet it makes sense even. So another one where bizarrely, I'm actually not totally out on this team. I don't know the coaching thing, that I'm scared about that. But I still think if you have players like fucking bought and upset, there's a way we can make this work. I mean, I'll even tie a more explicit one together, which is, I think fucking Bo, this is the reason I think Upset joined this team with him again. That's my dream fucking jungler if I'm Upset. Think about how Upset likes to play a team fight. I want this guy all the way on the back line while I'm as far back as possible, just fucking kiting everyone. And they can't, the joke is, while he's on their back line, they can't get to mine. I'm the one fucking kiting back, killing them all. This is dream jungler.
I think the players that have the biggest edge to play with Bo would be irrelevant, because this guy plays actually on the edge all the time. Bo, I would say Vitio. Vitio is so good at playing on the edge. Upset, and in terms of support, it's Mikix all the time. But
sure.
Probably you got to find someone, but you could be Trimby or something.
Yes.
This team would actually be a challenger for G2. I think if you put these 5 players together, if G2 is not ahead from the early game, I think they lose fights. It's like a Genji, it would be European Genji. It's just sad because... and that's what I had in mind when they assembled this KCorp. I was like, you probably don't have it's when you get a 4090 from Nvidia, but you have an Intel Celeron. They're not a Celeron, because
that's a great analogy.
I'm being too mean.
No, just an old like the i5 or something. There you go, an i5 Intel. Yeah, exactly.
You're just CPU capped. Like your CPU cannot process the amount of data. That's how I feel with Carmine. I'm like, if the solo laners and the supports don't stand up to the point where they can enable these two guys, then it's kind of a no point. You should have worse players that will just play a front-to-back team fight and be expectations are too high, maybe. I don't know. I think they can pull it, but there is a lot of individual work to do with Cabo. We haven't spoken about Cabo, but Cabo, Saken, and Targamas needs to step up a little bit.
No, I'm with you. Essentially, I would say it this way. To a fan, especially if they're a hater, they're going to go, all the players are bad and they could never win a game. No. That's why I think your metaphor is brilliant, actually. If people don't understand, especially old school people who've made their own PCs, having the best graphics cards are irrelevant if your fucking motherboard and your chip is shit, because it's not going to make use of it. So what's the point in having the absolute best graphics card? You got to enable it so that then it can do what it can do. So the point here is, if you have Born Upset, bro, I don't even need any of these 3 players to be like really good. You could all be the 6th best top player, the 6th best mid laner, the 6th best. That's probably enough. We'd probably win a bunch of games here. And wait, here's the thing. We'd at least be in the mix. We'd at least be in like the 4th, 5th, 6th spot, winning games, mixing it up with the Vitalities of the world, the SKs and the Rec. We'd be right there. There is
no competition. I agree with you. It's like it's not the bar is super high. Like we haven't even spoken about Heretics yet.
We're gonna
there
get
is
to
Rogue, there
next,
is SK. So Giant X. So for these reasons, I agree with you. I feel like if it just passed the bar of the 5 out of 10, and they let Bo and Upset do, and they just firmly believe these guys have something, and the team moves that way, I think they're going to be in playoffs next split, and they might even be dangerous.
Yes. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.